Hello, my name is Brianna Powell, and I am a senior at the University of Texas at Tyler. And today I'm going to be sharing with you my research project that I did on community perception of the juvenile waiver. So this research study reveals community perspective on the juvenile waiver into adult court. It was not based on any statistical findings, just community opinion alone. So the juvenile waiver was created originally to be a universal deterrent by handling juveniles that committed certain crimes by waiving them into the adult court. So the juvenile justice system has evolved from being more retributive in nature to taking a more punitive approach. Now, statistics show that the juvenile waiver has in fact been unsuccessful in deterring juvenile crime, but the participants were not made aware of this. This is just what they think, pretty much based on what they already know. And new policies are in fact necessary since the waiver has been unsuccessful in deterring crime. So the history of the juvenile justice system. Prior to the creation of the juvenile court, children under the age of 7 were not seen as capable of having criminal intent. So they were never prosecuted. If you were under the age of 7, and you committed a crime, it was basically like a slap on the wrist, you go home, and that was the end of it. Now, children in between the ages of 7 and 14 could be tried as adults, but only under the circumstance that the prosecution proved that the child was capable of possessing criminal intent. And then all children over the age of 14 were automatically tried as adults. No matter what, 14 or older, you commit a crime, you're tried as an adult. So then the first juvenile court was created in 1899, the Juvenile Court of Cook County, Illinois, with the intent to rehabilitate the youth with sentences that were intended to transform the youth from delinquent to non-delinquent. In 1966, Kent v. United States resulted in the establishment of the due process requirements for waivers based on interpretation of the District of Columbia Juvenile Court Act, which basically authorized the juvenile court to waive the jurisdiction of juvenile into adult court after the completion of a full investigation. So the juvenile justice system started from, not even existing to trying to, help the kids be rehabilitative, get them, from being, as what they call delinquent, to non-delinquent. And now our justice system is seeking a more punitive approach to where they want to punish the juveniles if they have committed certain crimes under certain circumstances. The Supreme Court later improved the procedural protection in the juvenile courts with the decisions of In re Winship and In re Galt. In these decisions, 4 constitutional rights were identified for juveniles. They were granted the right to an attorney, the right to have notice of the charges against them, protection against self-incrimination, and right to a fair trial. In 2005, the decision in Roper v. Simmons resulted in the elimination of the death penalty for juveniles. So the juvenile waiver has constantly been changing since its original creation, and they're now granted more rights than they originally were. And the big difference between the juvenile courts and juveniles that are subjected to adult court and are waived into the adult court is that juvenile courts are not a trial by jury, as where adult courts are. However, adult courts result in far worse punishment than the juvenile court ever could. So prior research to this subject, Edgar P. Mulvey and Carol A. Schubert did a report on the effects of the juvenile waiver to the juveniles. They discussed their findings of adolescents being at risk for disruptions in their personal and social development, along with identity formation, growth in skills and competencies, relationships, learning, and positive movement into adult status. Now, this is very harmful. As you know, these early stages of our lives are our growing opportunity. It's our chance to learn, and it's where we learn who we are and develop. And so in their research, they found that it actually stunts these social growths and social developments of these juveniles. They also found that most juveniles that are subjected into adult court, that are waived into the adult court, have a higher rate of rehabilitation than those that just remain in the juvenile justice system. Another study was the Lanza-Caduce study. They compared recidivism rates as well between transferred offenders and retained offenders. The statistics found in this study was 49% of transferred offenders ended up reoffending, while 35% of retained offenders, so offenders that remained in the juvenile system, only 35% reoffended. So for this research project, the way I went about it was it was a convenient sample. So pretty much it was a random selection. Whoever wanted to take the survey could take the survey. So it was random selection based on voluntary participation only. I wasn't targeting a specific group. I wanted to keep it very diverse, and hopefully get a mix of, adults and younger people above the age of 18, both male and female, different races, stuff like that. This survey was given electronically and was open to anyone who chose to participate. I originally advertised through social media, but I did not get the number of responses that I was hoping for. So I started reaching out to family members and friends, sending them the link to this survey and asking them if they would mind taking a couple minutes just to fill out the survey. It was 20 questions long. And so that's how I eventually reached my 24 responses. So prior to beginning this survey and having people respond, I made 3 hypotheses. My first hypothesis was that parents are going to be less likely to support the juvenile waiver. My second hypothesis was that women are less likely to support the juvenile waiver than men. And my third and final hypothesis was that the survey results will be balanced, and about half will agree and half will disagree that the juvenile waiver is successful in deterring juvenile crime. So the results of these hypotheses. My first hypothesis was parents are less likely to support the juvenile waiver. I thought this because as parents, we don't want to see our children in any danger or getting any kind of excessive punishment. So I predicted that parents, if you had children, would be less likely to support the juvenile waiver because they have their own children and they could probably relate. So the question that I directed this specifically to is, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? The juvenile waiver is necessary to provide juveniles with the rehabilitation they need. So out of these 2 questions, the parents, the ones that have children, answered 0 for strongly agree, 2 for agree, 3 for neutral, 3 for disagree, and 3 for strongly disagree. And those that do not have children answered 0 for strongly agree, 4 for agree, 5 for neutral, 4 for disagree, and 0 for strongly disagree. In conclusion, 54.5% of the parents in this particular survey, the respondents of this survey, found that the juvenile waiver is not necessary. So this is over half of the parents that participated, as to where 30.7% of the non-parents found the juvenile waiver to be not necessary. So there are more parents. The majority of the parents found it not to be necessary, as to where the non-parents found either that they were neutral on the subject or that they agreed that the waiver was necessary. So my second hypothesis was that women are less likely to support the juvenile waiver than men. I directed this with the same question. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? The juvenile waiver is necessary to provide juveniles with the rehabilitation they need. And so out of the male respondents, 0 strongly agreed, 4 agreed, 4 remained neutral, 4 disagreed, and 2 strongly disagreed. And out of the female respondents, 0 strongly agreed, 2 agreed, 4 remained neutral, 3 disagreed, and 1 strongly disagreed. So my hypothesis was actually wrong. A higher percentage of the males found the waiver not to be necessary than the females. 42.8% of males found the juvenile waiver to not be necessary, whereas only 40% of the females found the juvenile waiver to not be necessary. My third hypothesis was that the survey results would be balanced, and about half would agree and half would disagree that the juvenile waiver is successful in deterring juvenile crime. So out of these responses, these respondents, 0 strongly agreed, 3 agreed, 9 remained neutral, 9 disagreed, and 2 strongly disagreed. So in total, 47.8% believe that the juvenile waiver is unsuccessful in deterring juvenile crime. However, 39.1% remained completely neutral with no opinion on this particular question, and 13% believe that the juvenile waiver is successful in deterring juvenile crime. So again, my hypothesis was wrong. Almost just as many people remained neutral as they disagreed that the waiver was unsuccessful in deterring juvenile crime. So my policy recommendation would be to completely eliminate the juvenile waiver. Statistics have proven that the juvenile waiver is not successful in deterring juvenile crime at all, which is what it was created for. And so it only makes sense that if it's not working, then to get rid of it, change it, do something different. So I would recommend that a waiver be eliminated completely, that juveniles remain in the juvenile system until they turn 18. Now, upon their 18th birthday, they can be retried in an adult trial to decide whether they were going to go to adult prison or if they would be released or be on probation or something of the sort. So they would actually go through an original trial with the juvenile justice system, and then upon their 18th birthday, go through another trial with the adult court to determine what will happen following their 18th birthday as they become a legal adult. And then I also recommend that we increase the juvenile education programs, counseling and psychotherapy for the juveniles, and then implement multidimensional treatment foster care in the place of regular group care. So the Steinberg created a statistical analysis of all of these programs and more, but these programs specifically were proven to be the most successful for the juvenile justice system and shows the decrease in crime rates and an increase in total benefits for the whole criminal justice system because of these programs. These programs have been successful and help rehabilitate the juveniles in a way that reduces their recidivism rates and overall crime rates as well. Now, these are my references. I appreciate your time, and thank you for watching my video and for allowing me to share my project with you.